Welcome back to 3 Plus U. The fall weather most definitely here, and for most of us, that's an exciting time. But those reports are coming out that with cold and flu season, we could see another spike perhaps in COVID-19 cases. So it's an optimum time for us to be talking with our friend, Dr. Tim deRoos at Infinite Health Centers up in Cleveland about ways we can all stay healthy. And from Tim, from what you were telling me, that kind of starts with bolstering your immune system, right?
Absolutely. There's no better time than right now to have a fantastic offense in place to be your defense during this time, especially as uncertain as the virus is. And when we approach a colder season like we are, that's notorious for depressed immune systems. So there's no better time right now than to supplement, to get sunshine, to be in motion. It doesn't mean you have to pump iron at the gym or kill yourself at the gym. It just means to be in motion, because that ultimately helps the fluid transport of your body. And that's important for immunity and pretty much every organ system of your body. But yeah, I'm a big proponent of having a diverse activity level and being a proactive immune booster, so to speak.
I know that you're going to give us kind of some tips and some things we can add into our diets and look more at what we can add in versus what to take away. Before we get started, though, with it being the cold and flu season, we've all gotten very accustomed to washing our hands, and that's a good thing. COVID is a virus. Do you think we have to be a little bit careful about not going overboard and using a lot of antibacterial products? I mean, do we want to have a little bit of dirt in our lives, and that way the immune system has a chance to still fight?
Well, you know, everybody's got their opinion on this. You can listen to television and hear certainly a multitude of them. Mine is that, you know, what always has been there still always will work. So yes, you do have a certain level of what's called flora on your skin surface, and that's good and bad bacteria, good and bad yeast even. So if you do go overboard with the alcohol-based products, you can wipe out and really set out of balance those flora that are naturally found on your skin surface alone. This is one example, but you've got it everywhere. You know, you've got it in your gut, you've got it in your lymphatics, your respiratory system especially. But yeah, you know, there is a lot of merit to making a good offense or having a good offense in place to be a good natural defense as we navigate our way through this COVID, especially if there is a resurgence. But you know, the pillars I typically talk about with our clients and our patients are hydration. Hydration is pivotal right now because fluids are what is the medium of transport in our body, both for oxygen, nutrition, and waste removal. The second is to make sure your drainage channels are open wide. These are all basics, by the way, that people should be hearing from their medical practitioner on a regular basis. So if they're not, please ask. You want to have that first and foremost, drainage. If you're congested, that's a sign that you've got issues. Sinus congestion is typically a sign that you have lymphatic or liver congestion, which is at a deeper level or deeper layer. So what I tell folks is incorporate some of those food products that are easy to obtain and that will help support that part of your system. And one of them in particular is pretty common in this area are onions and garlic. Garlic being a high sulfur containing food, onions, some, but also onions have rutins, and those are really good for keeping you clear and draining away waste products so that you don't become congested and miserable.
And do they hold that property, Tim, if you cook them? I know I do a lot of like potatoes and onions in the skillet this time of year. Is that okay?
You know, raw is always best, right? Because that's the natural form God made. When you do cook, you do have some releasing. That's why if you saute some garlic and onions and you can make them translucent or aromatic, they are releasing some, yes.
Okay. So if you can make a homemade pico, that's a good thing.
Right.
Better to have it raw.
Yes, raw, if you can tolerate raw. Some people, their digestive tract is so beat up that they don't tolerate a lot of raw. So I usually start them off with steamed vegetables. It's a lot easier for them to tolerate. Then they can work in more raw, which has a higher energy level and a higher frequency. Everything alive has frequency. So think of it that way. You can cook something to death like a piece of sausage and there's no life in it, right? No value hardly. But you can have a piece of raw vegetable or fruit and there's a lot of life and vitality in that.
So I ditched my vegetables last night, which I typically have at supper, and I made a homemade chicken pie. My 22-year-old daughter came home for dinner and she said, Mom, put a little hot sauce on it. It'll take it to a whole new level. So I did, and she was right. You would say that that hot sauce was a good thing.
Yeah, that's more of a metabolic strategy that I teach. So that, you know, a lot of the cultures of the world that are the leanest, those people really spice up their food. So it's a good practice. Even if you don't like spicy food, just start with black peppercorns and move to some red flakes, or before you get into Tabasco or slap your mama or something that really is hot. But that's a good place to start on a gradient so that you get your body used to it and you don't cause a lot of indigestion.
So much of it is mental in addition to the physical. You mentioned that you've got people coming in who didn't gain the COVID-15, but you said the 30 and 45 at some point. So you look at it as trying to encourage them of things to add in as opposed to looking at what they have to remove.
Right. This, you know, people in America were getting a great enough dose of bad news. It's time people turn that around and really exercise the positivity of their attitude potential. What I tell people is, rather than feeling deprived and just carving everything out of your diet, look at it as a replacing things that are nutrient depleted, processed heavily or refined heavily, and devoid of a lot of nutrition with something that's vital, something that's live and fresh and whole. That way you can reverse your way of thinking and get out of the rut. The reason people come to see me is because they have perpetuated the same practices. You know, up in Polk County, Tennessee, we say, if you do what you always done, you're going to get what you always got. So the way of breaking free from that mold is to adopt a new line of thinking, and that's changing some of your food choices, restocking your pantry, cupboard, and refrigerator with things that are more live and vital and fresh.
I talk a good game, Tim, but I don't always follow the suggestions and thoughts I might have on the air. I would think, I know in my life, I just kind of live it. So if I was talking to you about how I feel on a day-to-day basis, well, when I had COVID, for example, every day I was talking to work and I would say, oh, I feel good, I feel good. And with each day, I found myself feeling better. So I would look back and think, oh, wow, I hadn't really realized how tired I was, or how, you know, I wasn't paying attention to it. So do you think it's a good idea for people to journal?
Oh, great question. Yeah, in fact, that's a regular practice here at the office. We have people that maybe they plateau, for instance, and I'll say, go back and start journaling each of your meals, what your food category was for that meal, so that I can go back and help you and teach you what that food does to your metabolism, does to your number on the scale 1 to 3 days later, because that's the typical course. When you eat something, it's going to affect your body metabolically 1 to 3 days later. So that way you can kind of, in retrospect, see what you had, see how it affected your body's metabolism and how your body processed those calories and those nutrients.
Okay. And before I let you run, and we'll talk a little bit about what you do personally for your patients at Infinite Health Centers, but another takeaway, your freebie, as you say, for people, you do want them to scale back on the sugar.
Oh my goodness, yes. Sugar, when the body metabolizes it, it gives off 2 acids, which in effect lower your body's pH. When your pH is in a more acidic state and stays in an acidic state, it can predispose you to cancer, number one, but it also can keep you in fat storage mode much more readily. So the goal for everyone is to return to a fat burning state. And the way to do that in one part of many is to elevate the pH.
So does that mean when people come in to see you, this will segue us into what you do with each individual client. When people come in, is one of the things that you measure in them their body's acidic level? Does that help you know what their necessary formula is?
It is. We measure one fluid of many. And don't get me wrong, all of the fluids of our body are designed to have a specific pH attached to them in an ideal situation. So we track one fluid, and that helps us gauge where that person is metabolically or on their weight loss journey. That's one measure or one metric that we track regularly. We also track body fat percentage, BMI, and of course weight. And it helps us gauge where that person is in their journey of cleansing and detoxifying. And metabolically speaking, how much fat they can expect to burn and when.
So here we are, the end of September, the holiday season around the corner. Whether people are going to be able to get together for parties or not remains to be seen, but you still want to feel good about yourself at every time of year. If people come in to see you, Tim, and make an appointment and they're in early October, will they be feeling and seeing a difference by Thanksgiving?
Yeah, absolutely. Most people tell me when they start their very first introductory week, they can tell a difference already in sleep and energy, mental clarity. That happens pretty quickly because, when you start hydrating properly and you start eliminating more of the toxins and poisons that your body produces metabolically, you're going to feel better. You're going to rest better. So this truly, like I've told you before, it's really a health plan that has the substantial benefit of returning someone to more fat burning and getting them away from the fat storage they've been locked in.
All right, let me share with our viewers how they can get in touch with you. It's Infinite Health Centers up in Cleveland, the address and phone number and website there on your screen. He is just as nice in person as he appears to be when we have a chance to talk to him here on 3+U. Tim, thanks so much for your time.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Julie.
Back in a minute.